the people you surround yourself with, and the tribes that we find ourselves in. And we're gonna dig deep today into a better understanding of the value of the tribe and the tribes that you find yourself in, that you have put yourself in, and how to leverage those tribes.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
Hey, wherever you are finding this today, if you are watching on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite app and podcast platform, great to be in the conversation with you today. Thank you for tuning in. We are honored to be a part of this journey with you. It truly is a great privilege for us. Dr. Stephen, I love being able to meet with you on a weekly basis and to be able to share things that are on our hearts, things that we're convicted about, things we're learning, things that we are growing in, things that we're recognizing from so many of the CEOs that we are honored to be able to partner with and journey with in this remarkable journey of building a remarkable business and being a remarkable CEO. I'm excited to talk about a topic today that I think you and I, if we look back over the course of our lives, I think we recognize how important it is the people you surround yourself with, and the tribes that we find ourselves in. And we're going to dig deep today into a better understanding of the value of the tribe and the tribes that you find yourself in, that you have put yourself in, and how to leverage those tribes the most effective way. It is 2023. If you're listening to this episode after 2023, we are recording it in 2023, and the times have rapidly been changing. We're seeing the landscape in the marketing space continue to change. Doc, just since you and I were actively practicing, and what has happened in the last 5-6 years has been incredible to see, but some things remain the same. Doc, I am deeply in this, as you are, with so many of our CEOs. So eager to get into our conversation today.
Pete, I was excited to share just a few things that I've been learning and experiencing, and it's just great conversations I've been having in the last, let's say, month. We're hiring a new sales manager for the Remarkable practice, so somebody who will be, come in and run our sales process, our sales team, et cetera. So, we've had the opportunity to interview, and I've interviewed some real heavy hitters, some great players. And of course, every time you have an interview, you have an expert who is going to tell you everything that they know, about, in this situation, a content expert around marketing and sales, right? So it's just like, Pete, it was like going to school, right? So it was fantastic for, 1 hour, speaking of 4 different, players that are $250,000, $350,000 players, right? So these are big dollar experts who live and breathe in this space, and they're trying to show you everything that they know about what's going on now and what's working now. So man, it was like, I'm like, this is fantastic, right? So it's, when you do 4 times 250 minimum, it's $1 million course I got to take over the last month, which was very rich. And man, I just so appreciated that. I started to feel a lot like my dad. Like my dad was comedy when, whenever we were interviewing like a massage therapist for the practice, thinking about bringing in a massage therapist, my dad would always raise his hand and volunteer. He's like, you can line them right up, Stephen. I'll interview all the massage therapists. If I have to do them back to back to back, I'm willing to do whatever it takes for you, buddy. And I'm like, Dad, you just give and give. That's great. So yeah, for me, it was an enriching experience, and I'm excited to, share some of the takeaways and observations from these 4 conversations with heavy hitters.
It's interesting when we were discussing this before, recording here today, the word that really stood out to me, Doc, that you said is the word trust. And I really think that's where we're going to spend some time today is the word trust. And I go back to one of my favorite books I've read, Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. He talks about, the foundation of every enduring relationship within the context of your team, but in their context of life, is trust. And what we're talking about is for the fundamentals today of relationship building. We're talking about the fundamentals of building and retaining long-term successful relationships. And we're talking about that today. Specifically, we're going to talk about trust. And unfortunately, there has been a decrease in trust when it comes to marketing. I know you're gonna unpack some of these concepts, things that these people that are industry leaders, even outside of our industry, outside of chiropractic, this is what's going on nationwide, worldwide, industry-wide. It's not just a chiropractic conversation, but it is a chiropractic conversation specifically. So we're talking about it today because it's important for us as CEOs to be mindful and aware of exactly what is happening. And so that we stay on the cutting edge, we're on the tip of the spear, we're continuing to stay on that, the front end of that bell curve of knowing, hey, this is where I'm going to invest my resources. We have limited resources. We recognize that, docs. That's why we're talking to you. You have limited resources of time, a limited resource of time when it comes to your marketing, a limited resources of energy. You have a limited resource of focus to be able to focus on this, a limited resources of money to invest in this. And the money that you do invest, it needs to be invested wisely. That's why we're leaning in here, because I know all of us are thinking about where are we going to invest the resources that we have to continue to reach more people in our community, to continue to serve our mission and to fulfill the purpose that we have. That's why this conversation is important. And we're speaking to you as the CEO. So Doc, I'd love to just start with the concept, this term trust.
Okay.
Because I know it's something that you and I were discussing. I'd love to just unpack this to start, and then we can go deeper into the very practical side of how to respond.
Well, if you're looking to add another book to your CEO book list, The Eighth Habit, Stephen Covey Jr., where you learned the power of trust and understanding specifically in this conversation that conversion happens at the speed of trust. When you're in a high trust environment, everything speeds up. When you're in a low trust or no trust environment, everything slows down. That's all you need to know. Okay. So at the end of the day, marketing and sales is just a series of conversions, right? So that's ultimately what it comes down to. Every single step in every single process is a conversion to the next step in the process, right? So conversions happen at the speed of trust, right? So we're always looking to increase trust. And that's true in every relationship, whether it's an actual or virtual relationship. So, what we've seen in the last couple of years, as you said, Dr. Pete, is people have lost trust. The marketplace has lost trust. People are jaded. Like they've lost their trust of leadership, whether it's in government or in healthcare or authorities. I mean, we don't need to rehash. Everybody understands it. And it viscerally right now. It's like people don't even know who to trust. In fact, it's a point of stress because people need to trust. As human beings, we're hardwired that we need to trust leadership, right? So at the end of the day, this is why you hear us say your attraction is a reflection of your certainty, right? So we are literally hardwired on a DNA level to require to trust a leader, right? So your conversions are a reflection of your conviction, right? So it's like, that's what you pick up on with somebody who has certainty. That's what you trust, right? So ultimately, this is a DNA issue, right? So people don't move. They don't take action until they trust. So ultimately, all of this comes down to how do I establish greater trust? And the reality is the marketplace has changed a great deal in the last 2.5 years in this space. And when your market stops listening because they're just inebriated, right? There's been just too much information. They're saturated, right? So they've got to the point where I can't take on any more information. In fact, I'm listening to, regardless of how polarized everyone is, you're still getting exposed across the board, and everything now is a conflict and everything now is emotionally charged. And man, I'm just afraid to bring things up. So, people have just, there's an apathy that has developed and it's, the inertia that has built up around just consuming something new or taking action and engaging in something new and following something new. This is like, the reality is, it's like when you're trying to do this virtually, when you're trying to interruptive marketing and trying to just make 7 impressions to get them to take action, good luck with that, right? That 7 went to 28 and then to 37. And I don't even know where it is now, honestly. I mean, I don't even know if people can measure it. The reality is everything's changing. And now we've got this AI dynamic, which is it promises to be an inflection point in digital marketing. I would say that my prediction is that AI now will be weaved into the DNA of every experience virtually, and it'll be as big of an inflection point as the introduction of the internet, right? So it's everything is accelerating since, in November of this year, Chat GPT was released, and that was it. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, right? So you've got to get ready right now, and you've got to realize when it comes to digital marketing, we've turned the corner, right? So everybody has noticed that your cost of acquisition, right? So when you look at your digital marketing, it's gotten much, much more expensive to do advertising online. And the truth be told, truth is that you've got the tech giants that have been subsidizing cost per acquisition of clients to create an addiction for businesses for the last 10 years. They have been subsidizing the cost. So now every business has got an addiction for, hey, I've got to rely on the internet and my digital marketing to get all of my customers, my new customers and clients. And business as a whole is addicted. And so now that there's an addiction, guess what can happen? You can start jacking up prices, right? So, at the end of the day, what we can see and expect to continue to see is a general increase in the cost of digital marketing. So this conversation is going to be opening your eyes to the value of, although you have to continue to do digital marketing, you cannot solely rely on it. And we've got to get back to those good old standards, the chiropractic greatest hits of internal and external marketing, and specifically, Dr. Pete, leveraging your tribe in an environment of just ever increasing trust, as people need to trust, yet there's such a dearth of trust in the marketplace.
So let's begin to talk about what we can do. So I think, Dr. Stephen, you've definitely set the tone. And I think, for all of us who are listening and we're listening to that, we recognize that this is true. It's true in and of yourself. Think about your own self. Just take your own pulse. But it's true, and it's true of your community. This is what's the facts, the brutal facts of the marketplace. That the marketplace. You talked about two things. Number one, the marketplace has lost trust and become apathetic, and then the cost of reaching the marketplace for businesses is also going up. So while you're investing more, it's harder to connect with and reach the person that's going to be ready to take action, right? Because the goal is to take action. So you said something earlier that I just wanted to make sure I repeated, but you said as trust decreases, so does action taking action stops. So as we lose trust, we stop taking action. And so this is not we're not doing this anymore. This is, we've got to do this better. We've got to reconsider how we're going to reach the marketplace. Like you said, it's not that we're not leveraging the digital platform, and this is not a meeting or a podcast on digital marketing.
It's definitely not anti-digital marketing. I just to make sure we're just, I appreciate you double clicking on that, because you absolutely have to be digital marketing. You're going to have to ramp it up, but you're going to need to budget and expect that, there's going to be a different approach to that, which I think we should discuss a bit too.
Well, I'm sure we'll have more discussions about that throughout this year, because I sense that the marketing conversation we love to have, we're going to continue to have. So Doc, I want to shift to the conversation about tribes, as you stated. So while we have our digital marketing strategies continuing to go, you need to get counsel, and you need to be wise in how you're approaching this, and not throw out the baby with the bathwater, but redefine ways to be able to reach your audience. And one of the things that we know, Doc, works, and this works for whether you're in the digital space or just within the context of your tribe, is putting out authentic, high quality content. And that is something that, is not going anywhere, and it will not go anywhere, because it's been around since the beginning of time. If you go back 2,000 years, high quality content has always moved the needle.
It's very sticky.
What's that?
It's very sticky.
It is very sticky. And so that's something that, if you've been sitting on the sidelines, if you've been waiting, or if you've been trying to use maybe canned content or whatever to try to move the needle, recognize that that's not going to be successful anymore. If it was successful in the past, moving forward, it has to be authentic content, and it needs to be something that is meaningful, and it's effective, and it speaks to again, specifically to the person that you're trying to reach, and they're feeling that you are connecting and speaking directly to me, that's there. But I want to talk about, Doc Stephen, the concept of tribes, and that human beings were wired, we're tribal. We look for community. We need it. As you said, we're hardwired in our DNA to trust, to find leaders that we can trust. And so if you have a tribe that you've built, whether it's an email list tribe, or it's a Facebook following tribe, or an Instagram following tribe, or you're in your practice tribe, or you've got, connections in your community where you're inside of other people's tribes, we're going to talk about how to be more mindful of the tribes, managing and stewarding the tribes with which you have, the places with which you have influence, and you can share your message, and you can build trust, and people can take action and will take action to follow you. Because what we know now, Doc, is that people now, we know this, after the pandemic and everything we've been through, people right now need chiropractic care more now than ever before. Like,
right.
We are more relevant today than ever before.
That's right.
And so the truth gets more truth as time goes on, as truth remains the same. And so that, to me, is why this is such an important meeting today. It's such an important podcast, because again, the effectiveness that you can have is directly related to the influence with which you have and the stewardship you have of the tribes with which you're involved in right now.
Yeah. So I want people to be listening to this message with a bad news, good news, great news perspective. Okay. So I'm going to quickly summarize that. Here's the bad news: is the marketplace generally is disengaged, right? They're unresponsive. They stopped trusting, so they stopped acting. Okay. So it's harder to get them to engage. Compounding that is the cost per acquisitions are going up, because digital marketing is no longer going to be subsidized by Meta and Google and the rest of the tech giants. They've got you addicted, and they know it, and it'll turn into the cost of advertising on television. Watch. I mean, it's just like what happened with ATMs. They remember when ATMs came out, as all of a sudden it's like, hey, free, these cool little computers everywhere that you can get money out for free. Next thing you know, you're at the casino paying $15 to take out $200. It's like, wait a minute, how did that happen? All right. So how quickly that changed. It's, you get people addicted to a technology and they rely on it, and then you start charging them for it. So we're seeing that dynamic. So that's the bad news. Okay. The good news is, to your point, is organic search is still king, right? Good content is still king, because just like in internal referrals in your practice, you've got internal referrals come in three flavors, right? Organic referrals, process-driven referrals, and campaign-driven referrals, right? So organic referrals are simply happy people send more people, right? So organic traffic and organic lead generation from you putting out great content that's relevant, that people engage with and share and like, and this is what's going to naturally and organically drive your search and return you a great investment, right? So it'd be a great ROI for your time, energy, focus, and money. So that is still going to be king, that's really good news, right? So ultimately focus on creating great content that is representative of your practice, your business, your passion, your purpose, your mission, right? And that's your marketing message. That you got to make sure that marketing message is consistent and compelling and is reaching your community, and you're going to benefit from that. You absolutely have to continue to lean in there. Okay. The great news is what you're describing, which is leveraging your tribe and your tribes, plural, is incredibly powerful, always has been, and is getting more so because of this trust dynamic. And the best news is for most of these engagements, interactions, and the referrals that will come from them, they're free. So you've got super highly qualified people that are moving towards you. You're pulling the noodle, not pushing the noodle. And it's at no cost or low cost to you, right? So we cannot overemphasize the importance of tribes. So what does this look like? Yes, you have your own tribe, right? Those are your active patients in your practice, right? So expanding out, you've got previously active patients, and you've got leads and prospects that you've captured, right? So those are concentric rings of power. They trust you more and more as you come in towards that center, those active patients. So that's your tribe in-house. But think about the tribe that you have in-house and the other places where you spend your life. Your church, your CrossFit box, your karate dojo, the yoga studio you go to, right? So the job you have, the business you're in, the sports team you're on, you name it, these are all tribes, right? So these are groups that you're involved in. You may even be a leader in. And these groups, these tribes are like-minded people who share many things, but one thing they share is a trust of one another. So when you have tribes and you can merge ecosystems, when as a chiropractor, I show up into a CrossFit box that I am a CrossFitter and I take care of the trainers and many people in that CrossFit box, I'm merging ecosystems. When that trainer who is the trusted authority in that space says, you got to listen to Doc. Doc's going to do this bulletproof series here. He's going to start with the neck, then he's going to go to shoulders, elbows, wrists. He's going to go mid-back, low back, and work us all the way down to the toes, right? So every week he's going to be here doing a bulletproof. You should do a functional screening with him. Like that kind of authority, he conveys that trust. Trust is, when we talk about, having, the ability to convey trust or hand off trust, this dynamic, you want to seize this because trust is contagious. When you have two groups of people that come together that are like-minded and two leaders that say you should trust this guy or this gal who leads this group, that trust is contagious. It's multiplicative. People want to trust somebody else and they're looking for somebody else that their leader trusts. So you got to ask yourself, Dr. Pete, who are the tribes around you, and have you let those muscles atrophy because you've gotten addicted to, all I'm going to do is run ads, and I'm going to, maybe it's time that we double back and we nurture the relationships that we have with leaders of other tribes so that we can leverage one another's trust factor where 1 + 1 = 11.
Yeah, I'm immediately looking at goals worksheets that I've been reflecting on and reviewing with CEOs this year here in Q1 2023. And one of the things that I've seen as a theme, because this is something that many of you are very intelligent, you're actually functioning as CEOs, is that you are seeing that happening. And I've seen more external marketing goals being set, whereas there was a blank. If you think about our goal setting worksheet, CEOs, those of you who know about it, there's 3 lines, right? It's internal, external, and digital. And we set goals, right? We set our BHAGs for the year, then we set our NHAGs for the quarter, and then we set our monthly goals, and then we have our weekly goals, and we report those weekly in our weekly team meetings, right? And so, but that line, that section was kind of blank ever since the COVID catastrophe, where so many of us had, lots of things going on in the community and the marketplaces around us. So what Doc is saying is that if you haven't re-engaged and reconnected with or reestablished those relationships, that's one action step to immediately take. But I'm seeing more of our doctors doing this. And I'm going to say this for some of you who are listening right now, you're thinking, is that really working right now? I'll tell you right now, I have, again, connections with enough CEOs to know that lunch and learns and, corporate events and, some sort of, whether it's a pampering event, the fair, the health fairs that you could do at a corporation, businesses, lunch and learns, talks, screenings in the community. These things are working right now. I'm literally looking at statistics and seeing numbers coming in of people
huge
being effective and working. So it's already working. Huge. Yeah. So what came to me, Doc, when you were talking was 12 tribes. So the 12 tribes I love. So thinking about the Bible and thinking about 12 tribes, and if you read, I'm reading through the Bible in a year this year again, and I'm reading. So I'm in the Old Testament. I'm reading through it. And it's just fascinating just to read like the stories. Anyway, but 12 tribes, and I thought, man, you have 12 tribes and you have 12 months. Who are your 12 tribes? Like, I'm just going to put it out there. I felt there was something about that. I needed to just throw that out there to the audience. Say, listen, take a whiteboard and say, who are our 12 tribes? In the community, you talked about your CrossFit box. That's a tribe. Who are the 12 tribes? And here's one of the things I would say to you. You gotta have 12 tribes to start. One tribe to start, actually.
One tribe a month, right? For the year. Just develop that relationship.
12 months. And the goal is to be able to be involved with one tribe a month, to come in and do a workshop, come in and do a talk, come in and do a screen, come in and support that leader, add value to that community, to that tribe, 1 a month, 12 tribes, 1 a month for the year. Build your calendar around 12 to start. I'm not saying you can't be more aggressive than that. I'm saying if I set that out there for some of you, maybe this
set
is
yourself
gonna
up for
help you.
success. Set goals you can hit. One tribe per month is great. And you build that relationship, especially if you were like, hey, let me come in here quarterly. By the end of the year, now you're doing 3, outside talks per month, right? So what would that do to your practice? What would that do to your business? It's brilliant.
It's huge. So again, as you were talking, I thought, man, so let's make this very practical. So one of the things you want to do is, you've got to have a place where you organize these relationships, right? This is one of the most important things that you can do is who are the relationships? Who are the other businesses? What are the other organizations? What are the other groups of people that you have a relationship right now? You've got to be able to organize this first and foremost. We like to say, marketing isn't hard, it's organized. Business isn't hard, it's organized. The more organized it is, the easier it is. It's never easy, but it's easier. So we've got to work smarter than harder. So organizing the tribes, organizing those relationships is going to be one of the first steps. So pull back out your Rolodex, get back out those business cards, whatever you've got, pull out those files that you've got in the filing cabinet, go back into your Google Drive and click on that area and start pulling up the names and the contacts and all of that of those people and say, hey, you know what? I haven't spoken to this person in months or years. And I would say one of the first steps is just give them a ring, send them a text, shoot them an email, say, hey, I'd love to grab coffee with you, and just begin the process of reigniting. And you know what? If you're a CEO and you say, you know what? I've got a new business development expert here on my team. I've got one of my, business builder docs who works with me, and that's what they do. You know what? Then you can empower them and equip them, do the 3-way handoff of the relationship and say, hey, I would love for you to meet one of my leaders on my team, and set them up for great success. And so think about it like a CEO, use leverage, whatever you need to do. But now is the time, if you haven't been doing this, to go back, pull back out those relationships. And then the second step would be, who are the new relationships? I don't know about you, but in my area, new businesses are opening up. There's new businesses opening up even now. It's been really awesome to see, and more health-related kind of businesses, and say, hey, if you can connect with that, like Doc, you sent me to a business where they do IV work, right? And they do other things right there. Guess what? They would absolutely benefit their tribe, their audience, from having an incredible chiropractic connection. They don't do chiropractic. It'd be amazing for you to connect with that company in your community. And those are popping up all over the place. And the list goes on. The stretch labs and the OsteoStrongs, and you name all these places, and the
Orange
gyms
Theory. I mean,
all these places.
There's so many, Dr. Pete. I mean, it's just wherever people in your community have spines and nervous systems who are coping with stress, right? Yes. They're trying to deal with and cope and adapt to stresses, right? So they need a great chiropractor, which of course means every human. As you were saying, get back to resources. One of the resources a lot of our TRP docs need to get back to is the TRP Academy. So if you get into the TRP Academy and you're trying to figure out, say, I'm looking at, module 70 on how to generate outside talks, part 1 and part 2, how to get new patient leads at outside talks, how to do better outside talks, how to leverage your new business development expert, the Well at Work cooperatives, the corporate wellness programs. I mean, Pete, we've got like 8 modules there that immediately are like getting back to school on generating external talks, external activity. I know that Coach Bobby has been killing it. That's over in Australia. Sebastian did a webinar last night on how he's been crushing it in Puerto Rico. So all around the world, Sebastian said he's done $255,000 in care plans this year alone from just doing his outside dinner talks, right? So he did a webinar on that last night. So outside activities back. And at the end of the day, what we've recognized is everything has changed. The world is changing. We need to change with it, right? What's old school is new school, and it's very cool. Get out there and merge those ecosystems. Find those other tribal leaders that are like-minded. Jump in and recognize that there's a level of give and take with this. There's a reciprocity where if you're like-minded, you can support them, they'll support you. And once again, 1 + 1 = 11. Hey, Doc, let's face it, 95% of your problems are people problems. Can't find A players, can't keep A players, don't know how to leverage your team, create expectations and agreements, or hold people accountable in order to optimize your team. Doc, what would happen to your practice if you were finally able to get the right people in the right seats, doing the right work the right way? For most chiropractors, it would change everything. You'd increase your capacity to see more people. You'd make a bigger impact and a bigger income. You'd be able to delegate and scale your business. Or maybe you need to get your associate doctor relationship dialed in. That would mean you getting your time freedom back, You could get a handle on your schedule, maybe even become a CEO. If this is what you want your 2023 to sound like, make sure that you join us for the remarkable team building immersion in Dallas, Texas, February 4th and 5th, or in Brisbane, Australia, February 24th and 25th. Man, I'm psyched to be back in Australia. Doc, bring your team with you. Get everyone on the same page. They'll be back in your office on Monday with more clarity, accountability, and purpose than ever before. Energize and mobilize your team and see your practice grow. What are your goals for 2023, Doc? Is it a 7-figure foundation, or a 7-figure revenue, or 7-figure profit, or maybe even a 7-figure exit? Regardless of what season you're in, you'll need a 7-figure team. Click the link in the show notes and register today.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.